Not yet.
It
There it
says
goes.
recording in progress.
Okay.
We're there. We're there.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mark, for joining us.
Mark's
You-
audio's on.
You're on mute, Mark. So just so you know, you probably want to be on mute, huh? That's thanks, Mark. Okay. So let's talk about the debt, because that's, that was a huge eye opener. Not huge, but actually it was huge, because I knew it would be a lot, because we could see all the construction work being done, and we knew that a lot of that was not being priced fairly. But long and short of it is right now the debt is still there. So Randy, you have a question? We're exiting. Oh, I'm sorry, Kim, what'd you say?
Oh no, I was just reading the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to interject that a couple things to consider. Number one, thinking about what's secured versus unsecured, and in addition to that, a lot of times with these debts, they might have been sold, so they might be listed with more than one, because there's my understanding was there was about $172,000 worth of debt when I was out there and I was going through everything with my dad. So to see all this extra debt, it's kind of like, it looks like some of it might be duplicated. One thing to be aware of when you pull credit reports is a lot of times they like, if it's a tri-merge report, it may list the debt 3 different times, and there can be variations in account numbers and that sort of thing. So I would say that there probably needs to be some validation of the debt.
Good.
Yeah, so I've gone through that very tedious process of validating the debt, and I do mean tedious, because I had to pull the actual contracts. Then I had to pull all the invoices I was receiving on a regular basis. I should say, still coming to his house. And then I also pulled the credit report to see which ones had actually ended up like with a collection agency or a lien against a property, that sort of thing. I pulled all those pieces together and I went through each one. And there was a little duplication, to your point, Randy, because some of the debt was consolidated. There's a company just called Goodleap. A lot of the loans are with.
He was in the process of that, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually put a spreadsheet together of tracking every contract. I wrote down what the contract was for to make sure. I don't know why my nose is so cold today. Sorry, guys. To make sure every one of the contracts was for legitimate work or some work being done, whatever they said. There was no duplication of the work. So I've got it charted what the contract was, number, the date, the actual item performed, because there's a work order for each one of them. And then what the policy number was of the loan that they charted against. And I can see on some of the work that it was consolidated. I've kind of tracked that consolidation. So now we have the final loan. And then I've tracked those again, like I said, against what's showing up in the credit report or what's showing up as an invoice coming into the house to make sure. There are a couple of questionable items, and I've listed them because I'd rather err on the side of caution versus saying, oh, these just don't exist. If I couldn't find enough backup for them, but the majority of these, I'd say 98, if not 99%, I have all the support documentation for. So that said, I feel comfortable that this number is correct. I would love to see that it's not. When I talked with the lawyer, she said, well, the best thing to do, and the only thing you can do right now is just sell the house. And once you determine who needs to be paid first, which is the order of priority that you need to pay when you have an estate like this. Obviously, burial expenses are important and first. Taxes are important and those have to be paid when you sell the house. Commissions have to come off the top for both buying and selling agents. There's escrow fees, all those things I've listed. The mortgage has to be paid because that's obviously a secure loan. And then, of course, several other items that are listed here in the order of priority. And then, of course, after all that's done and you have debts to pay the creditor, some money left to pay the creditors, then you have to go in and actually start negotiating with every creditor to pay the least amount possible so that if you can possibly pay them something. And legally, whether it's a secure debt or insecure debt, because I thought only the secure debt had to be paid originally before I started delving into this and reading what the law said. All the debt has to be paid, insecure or secure, it all has to be paid. You have to negotiate with creditors to best your ability to make a payment. If they won't negotiate with you, they get nothing because there's nothing left to pay all the creditors in full anyway. We know that.
Right.
If we can negotiate them down to bare knuckle, like a third of the debt, and they'll let us pay a third of it. Possibly there may be something left for the beneficiaries, and we're at the list. Was there a question? Oh, okay. Because we also found out, much to my dismay, that if we, as the successor trustees, pay ourselves, the beneficiaries, our cut of whatever the profit of the house is, and we have not negotiated to pay our debt to our creditors, we can actually be physically liable for that debt.
Wow.
And that was a scary thought. So that's something that will never happen. Never happen. I thought we would never, because legally you're not, as a person or a child, you are not responsible for your parents' debts. You're responsible for your debt and your spouse's debt, especially in California. I don't know how it is in other states, but you're still responsible in California for your spouse's debt, but you're not responsible for your parents. But in the office of a trustee, where you're acting as a fiduciary to make sure you're doing the best interest for that person that you're responsible for their finances and their final process for, you do have to make sure you pay all the creditors or attempt to pay them and document everything. So on that scary thought, for me not wanting to ever be responsible, and Kim, we never want to be financially responsible for any of this huge debt. We obviously have to follow the letter of the law to make sure that we have done everything we can to notify the creditors. So, and to negotiate a settlement with them. So everything was on pause, as you all know, for the first month or so, as we worked really hard to get the death certificate. And then when we got it, it was wrong. So that was another issue. They had the wrong cause of death. So I didn't want the final record to be incorrect. So I had to go back and fight with the county coroner and get them to correct it, which they did. So this is my Zoom notification here, but we're already on the call. So thank you, Zoom. That being said, like I said, I also have to reserve enough money in the trust of the proceeds from the house to pay the taxes for next year. So I don't know what they're going to be. And I'm working with a tax person who has been their tax person for 30 plus years. She's very good. And she's the one that's cautioning me on what to prepare for as we handle the taxes of the estate. So I can't really base them on the taxes that they paid now when they had income, because it's going to be a different story. So the only income they had throughout the entire process since he's passed will be the income from the sale of the house. These small items are not going to, I'm sure, are not going to be really taxable. $600 maybe for the furniture. So things like that I have to be aware of, and I will be reserving money, which means if we ever get to a point where creditors have accepted a very small amount of their fee, and we're able to have some money left in the trust to pass on to beneficiaries, I will still have to reserve some for tax purposes until I make sure there's nothing that's going to come back to bite me, because I don't want to be financially responsible for any of these things pop up. Yeah. And like I said, and things keep popping up. And as you see on the payoff structure list, and like I said, really following this list, that's going to be my checkoff list. I'll be making adjustments when necessary. The property sale amount may change. Everything that's highlighted in yellow is subject to change, including the fact, Kim's point earlier, we may have more debt popping up when we run the final title. Things are going to show up. Yeah, that's when they're going to reach out to creditors to make sure there's no additional things that are owed. I was saddened to see that, this $9,000 bill that I just found, this is for when they were staying in the facility. They're taking excellent care of mom. Never paid the bill for that. And I went to a collection agency. I remember them calling me, asking me to pay for it because I was as a trustee. And I said, well, I don't have any financial responsibilities until I take over as trustee. So I guess I sent it to collection. Not I guess, I know. So long story short, any questions about this? Because I said we'll do our best when it comes to even the fees for myself and Kim of being extremely reasonable, making sure we're not charging, an astronomical amount of money. We're not going to charge like the commissions, the agents get 3% of the sale of the house. That's like $23,000 each. And that's if it sells at $770. If it sells at a different price, of course, that will change. We're not taking 3%. Don't worry. We wouldn't do that. We would do that to all of us.
I have a question.
Sure.
With the taxes for 2024, 2025, that part, being that both people are deceased, when you sell the house, do they ever expedite and say, okay, since there's no more income, we can go ahead and say, this is what your tax will be and then lock it in there? Or do you have to wait till April of 2025?
I'll probably have to wait until the year, but I can ask
Yeah.
the tax.
They usually collect that at the settlement. They figure out, because your taxes are due the following year, like
Mhm.
you know, in 23, you're paying 22 taxes, for an example.
Mhm.
And so when you close, they figure that out as part of the settlement.
Okay,
So they prorate it and figure it out.
They mean the escrow team?
Yeah,
Yes.
title company. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
so be the taxes on the house, but for the whole, okay,
Okay. Yeah, they gave me some kind of an estimate, but it was more of the property tax side. But yes, that'd be great if they can estimate what
Well,
this.
that's what I'm talking. I thought that's what he was referring to as the property tax.
I'm talking
Oh.
dealing with the IRS. I'm talking when you
Oh,
deal with the
okay.
Oh,
IRS.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
No,
Property tax.
that's a different issue altogether. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. And to your point though, Derek, on the property tax side, they did caution us, the tax person actually cautioned us, saying that when a person dies, there's a different tax rate it's called a death tax, unfortunately, for death tax. So your property tax is calculated at a death tax rate versus a live person rate. So
Is that a
she
plus
kind
or a minus?
It
it's-
doesn't matter.
yeah, it should be less. But it definitely should
I'm
be
in the
less.
state of
They'll
California,
give
so I'm
you any way
curious.
they can.
It should be less, but she told me to reserve something. So I actually have like $1,500 reserved for that. You'll see it on the list already for the
Okay.
property tax. Yeah, but for IRS and state of California, that I do not know. I'll ask the tax person.
Okay,
Yeah, it probably cannot be filed. And Jerry's in the background saying something, but till next year, tax wise.
right.
But I have to reserve something because there'll be no money if I give it all away. There'll be no money to pay that tax, and the IRS and the state of California don't play. They want their money. So is there anything else that's important on this list that you guys wanted to discuss? I'm just kind of scrolling through real quick, making sure I haven't missed anything major. Oh, back to all these additional home improvement loans. So when I looked at the detail of several of them, this is back kind of to your point, Randy, several of the items, the descriptions of what was done and the amounts charged were absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely, total scam, total scam. So for example, I remember looking at one, it was like $28,000. And I looked at the work order to paint the room to actually install the toilet.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
So
Yeah, they were taking advantage of him, and I know that they told him, like, well, he had messaged me that they had told him to watch his back, and that was maybe in January of this year. I can't help but to wonder, if they had, and I mean, this is just my own suspicion because of the way they played him and took advantage of him, but I just wonder if they maybe would have ever just got duplicate contracts signed to submit additional loans that for the same on the same premise, like what you were saying.
We're going to do another quick and dirty look at exactly what was done. Because like I said, the biggest part was to compile this information to see if it actually was somewhat legitimate in the sense that we could see the work being done in the house. Like I can see that the new centralized air conditioning heat was put in. We can see that. We can see the room was painted. We can see the flooring was put in. But there was one bill for something that we thought was never done. So we have a lot of things to challenge if it's illegitimate or not, especially as we go back to negotiate on things they should have never charged him for in the first place. And they took advantage of him without a doubt. And he signed on the contract. And the problem with some of these contracts, they actually say, there's a separate contract that says, I am the senior person. I've spoken with my family and my accountant, and I understand this policy very well, and I'm going to sign it. So they have a clause in there just to get the seniors. It's the senior clause, yeah. And those were all signed. So even though they may not hold up in a court of law, like I said, there were contracts that were signed. So as we go back and try to negotiate these fees down, we will be dealing with the fact that mostly all of these are probably superly overpriced in a scam.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So we're not
for
gonna...
what he did in the house wasn't that substantial. I mean, he put, like, with the bathroom remodels, they might have put some with vinyl plank carried through from the hallway to the bathrooms. But I mean, outside of that, it was, I think, maybe new vanities, new paint, and maybe the bathroom, the shower.
Don't forget the door.
you know,
Yeah.
so.
Well, the major things is that according to the contracts, and I'm hoping that they actually put the right things in that they said they did. Repiping was done. It was an old house. It was built in 1957. So there was repiping done, which is major.
Yeah,
for
that's major.
bathrooms and kitchens, right? I don't know about some of the wiring that was done. I know that he's got, like I said, central air and heating, excuse me. He's got, what else? The carpet doesn't look that great. The two places that they have it done, I'm sure it's going to be taken out right away too.
Windows.
The new sliding glass door was put in. There's some improvements to the house. Like, the kitchen looks nice, neat. It's small, but it's, it's nice, and it looks nice. It looks nice when you walk in. The plumbing was done, the sinks were done, things like that. Cabinets were done, but definitely nothing to the tune of like $800,000. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But we have some work to do as we start the negotiations to, number one, make sure that we're negotiating on a legitimate price, not this inflated price. So we'll be dealing with that. And I said we, Kim and I, for sure, dealing with them. And Jerry might come in and help strong arm them too, but I know they can't talk to Jerry directly. They can talk to me, and so he'll probably be helping with that process. But it's been a ripoff all along, without a doubt.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have any contractor people that could actually look at that and tell you whether that was a market price, from that standpoint? That's question number one. Question number two, are there any reports against these companies where they're litigation because they've taken advantage of seniors? Is there anything like that in the state of California?
Probably so. We haven't looked into that yet.
Well, I'm
Okay.
for certain there is. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's our next step, to actually do a deep dive on these companies and the bills, and obviously before we start even having discussions with them, to start negotiating to see what we're up against. What are you gonna do, Jerry?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I hope you've taken lots of pictures of all the things in the house for your records, so that as you go forward to deal with these debts, that you've got like visual records, since the house will be sold.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
As one of
We
the
do-
siblings, I want to say thank you to you and Kim for all the hard work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes,
Yeah, appreciate that.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. There's lots more to do. And I guess I wanted, since we've kind of gone through the issues of the payout structure, we see if there's any money left, obviously we'll start this process of dispersing assets accordingly if there's any money left. And we're trying to get some money, because it's a shame that after all the work that was done and all the hard work, especially our mom worked for so many years. She was like 72 years old, all that just to go to everybody else. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is the things that we're collecting. So we've gone through the house now, and we haven't, dispersed of anything. We've actually just been collecting. So there are some personal items we know that the Jensen side would appreciate. We have a box that says Jensen. We're putting pictures and personal stuff. I think I told you once, Randy, we ran across your dad's college diploma, things like that. So we're just kind of putting those things in a box, things that might mean something to the two of you. I don't know how you guys want to split that up, or are you guys in the same city? Are you close to each other?
No, we're not, but we're
No, but
we'll see each other.
we see each other, so
Okay. So when the time comes, obviously we can probably ship to one, and you guys can decide amongst yourselves how you want to do things. It's on the Jensen side.
Yeah,
that's
that's fine.
fine.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
fine.
We're doing the same thing on Mama's side, because most of Mama's things in the house are gone. We didn't get a chance to go in and see that. Bob kind of got rid of everything, so there's not much left on our side except for pictures. And there's a couple of small items of Mama's. We're actually going through the home today. I'm leaving at 11, so I've got 3 more minutes to get out of here. We've got to be there at 12 to go through and kind of put together some of the things of Mama's. If it's small items like glassware and toasters and stuff like that, we're trying to sell them and donate them. That is our goal. And is there anything in the house that you can think of that you really want that's not on this list that's allocated to someone else? Let me know, because as I go out today, I'm completing my inventory list of what's in the house, and then I'll let everybody know.
Thank you.
And we can decide accordingly.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right. Any questions? Complaints?
No questions? Thank you.
No,
Right. Stay tuned.
thank you.
All right, thanks.
Especially on the sell
Uh-huh.
the house, so we can get this all behind us.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good.
Thanks,
Hopefully
everybody.
Thank you now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Did you ever record that, Derek? Were you able to?
Yes,
Okay, good. I'll keep it for my records. Thank you. Thanks,
You're so welcome.
everybody.
we'll be in touch.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Close it out.